Welcome to this event at SMU and Dedman College of Humanities and Sciences. I'm Thomas DiPiero, I'm the Dean, and I'd like to introduce to you our very special guest, Leandre Johns, who is General Manager of Uber Technologies for North and West Texas. Let's give him a little round of applause. But the first thing I have to ask, and the most important question is, did you take Uber over here?
Of course.
Okay.
No question.
Right now, as many of you know, we're close to May 1st, which is the time when students have to make their final decisions about the universities they'll be attending. And I'm wondering if you can put yourself back in that head. What were you thinking, and how did you decide to come to SMU?
Now, to me, SMU had a lot of things. It had academic prowess, it had a rich athletic history, and it had the student body size and classroom size that I really thought I would thrive in. Ones that weren't so big that I wasn't going to know my fellow students, but ones that I also could get close to the professors. And so all those things really kind of culminated into me saying, this is a place that I know that I want to be. And one of the other things, actually, when I was thinking about SMU was, the type of person I am. I was looking for an ambitious school, a school that wasn't already arrived. Some of the schools I was looking at were great schools, but it was kind of like, come here and be great with us, as opposed to come here and help us get to that next level. And that was SMU. Just had a lot of ambition. I had that same kind of drive, and so that felt like the right place, again, for me to be. So it was a pretty easy decision when I looked across the board at all the things it had to offer.
So when you look back about your career as an undergraduate, what are the things that you think of were most formative for you?
Oh, wow. You mentioned one of them, so alternative spring break. There's so many programs that SMU kind of aligns itself with. I was in the Dedman School, and so for me that gave me an opportunity to kind of keep that wide lens that I have. A lot of students come in with kind of a broad view of the things that they're interested in, and me going to the Dedman School allowed me to continue to have that broad interest in a lot of the things, and then to drive down and kind of get more narrow focus as to what I wanted to ultimately have my career kind of go forward with.
What kinds of things led you to the decisions you did make then?
Yeah, so on that track and then getting to where I'm at, so one of the things I think is great about SMU and coming out of Dedman is that I was pushed. I think I gained a real confidence coming out of SMU. I came out kind of with a sense of confidence that I can pretty much do anything. Because I had had a lot of success here, at least I felt like it, and had gotten myself involved in a lot of things.
You mentioned failure, and I hardly think failing to cure cancer is a big failure on your part, but I'm also curious about how we need to have students learn how to fail so that they can turn a failure into something successful or not be discouraged by failure.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic point. One of the things in entrepreneurship, I've tried to start 2 businesses and failed. I wouldn't say I failed, I just stopped. But one of the things that we do push is failing fast, right? So experiment on things that you think will work, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. But along the way, you're going to learn either way. You're going to learn what works, and you're going to learn what doesn't work, and you learn how to pivot, like we say in the startup world, and you iterate on those things, and you come back and say, okay, I'm not going to let this failure keep me down. I'm going to figure out what I did wrong and try and correct it. But test yourself. Test your mettle. I mean, you're here for 4 years, and make the most of them. I think one of the things that I always think about, I wish I had done, was be an entrepreneur while I was at school. I think if you have an opportunity, if you have an idea right now, make it happen now. Because so be aggressive and go after those things, and then give back to the school once you become a millionaire in your startup.
Hear that? Hear that? Give back to the school.
But, and on top of that, get yourself involved. There's just so many things that you can do at SMU, and I got myself involved, and I think that's what made me, has made me, dynamic or good potentially at strategy, because I've had to deal with different groups or had to deal with different negotiating styles or different cultures of people and diverse audiences, those kinds of things. You get again in college and at SMU, and you can build such a strong base for yourself that you come out potentially like me, maybe overconfident and trying to cure cancer, but you come out very confident because you've done so much while you're here.
When you're hiring somebody, we have a lot of young people here who might be interested in moving into this area. When you're hiring somebody, what do you look for? What kinds of backgrounds? What kind of abilities?
Yeah, Uber's a company that's very aggressive. So the first thing I'm going to look for is a level of aggression. Does that person, sit across the table with a sense of passion, a sense of aggression, a level of creativity? I think one of the things that I always kind of advise folks on is when you sit down with somebody and they say, walk me through your resume. That should take 30 seconds. If it takes longer than that, there's a problem. Next question that's going to come is, why this position, why now? So I have crisp answers for those kind of questions. And then beyond that, what I'm going to test is how analytical you are. There's a kind of a right answer to everything, and you want to be right in your interviews, no question. But what I'm looking for is not the right answer. I'm looking for how you get to that answer.
It sounds like part of what you're saying is be fearless, but that seems like that's part of your nature.
Yes, definitely. I mean, and you have to be, again, if you want to have an entrepreneurial mindset, you have to be fearless. You have to go after it. You have to know that failure is not something that's going to keep you down, that you're just going to iterate on that. And if somebody says, that's the wrong way to do it, all right, that's fine. I'm still going to keep at it. I'm going to still keep doing it. And
you mentioned food, teaching people to make good choices.
Yeah.
What kind of food choices do you make in Dallas?
So I'm a big foodie, I think. At least I could call myself one. So actually in Chicago, when I was a consultant, I used to go out to eat a lot. So I created this big spreadsheet because I would forget where I went to eat. And so I created this spreadsheet of all the restaurants I would go to, and then I would line those up against all my little critiques. And then I had a second tab that was this matrix that I created. And this was all for myself. But I had a friend looking over my shoulder one time asking me where to go, and he sees me pull open this Excel sheet with all these colors and this matrix and stuff, and he's like, "You're a big nerd, you know that?"
Leandre, thank you enormously. You've been very generous with your time, with your intellect, with your thoughts, the passion you have. We really appreciate your coming back to visit us, and I hope you'll come back and visit us again.
Definitely. Thank you.